changed? How are players going to adapt? These are the big questions at the forefront of my mind.
Just got to roll high, Paul.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Simple. Just roll. Just gotta roll well, I guess. Easy peasy.
In all seriousness, I speak towards high rolling, and that's a term in auto chess that a lot of the players, they use that term where it just means they're getting the pieces they're looking for. They're picking up 2 stars early. They end up with 6 goblins in round 6 or 7. Those crazy instances where you're getting exactly what you need and you're able to coast at the top of the lobby. Obviously, I'm being a little facetious in saying that because every player wants that, but it's not guaranteed. And something that we saw a lot earlier, at least last week, and I guess throughout this mobile open, is a lot of juggling of pieces. So while there are strategies that we're really looking after, of course, in the early game, a lot of goblins getting picked up. Glacial Knight, are we going to see that? Are we going to see the Kira strats come out? The Venomancer, some Assassin Spirit play. While there might be concerted efforts to go for these strategies, I'm very curious about the piece juggling that happens between these players. When do you actually decide that you're going for what you're going for, and how are you adjusting to what pieces you're seeing?
And I love that you bring this up because oftentimes we call this the transition. You transition from the early game pieces that are being thrown at you to the actual build that you want to do. And I've been casting auto battlers for a while now. The expression you always hear from top players is don't force builds. Don't force builds. You can have a goal, you can have an aim, but sometimes, look, man, if they're just going to give me like 8 abyssal crawlers, man, I'm going assassins. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to own this. And that's really, I think, the hallmark of these top players are the players who are able to take what they are given and make the best of it. And the ones that oftentimes are going in, and again, we talked about this, about the World Championships last year, a single player going in, she's like, I'm just going to play the same build every game. That might work for some people, but I don't think it's going to allow you to walk away with that first place finish.
Yeah, again, if I remember correctly, it was Lucky from China, the lone female player in the group, and she would go open fort into Glacial Knight every single round. And what ended up happening was, towards the later stages, other players would start open forting, even though they knew it would kind of hurt them. Because if another player is open forting and you know that, you're going to eventually run up against them. And then all of a sudden, you're winning when you really want to be losing if you're open forting. So the best way to quell an open forter is to open fort yourself, to force them to have a win and not go into that loss streak. So Lucky went in Glacial Knights, and then other players would also pick up Knights. So she would end up not succeeding with her strategy as the tournament went along. So yeah, it's a very important point to make in auto battlers. So we'll see how that goes as the games go along. I'm looking at the overall scoreboard here from these players, just trying to get a sense of who's going for what. Obviously, we're seeing a ton of goblins. I know we were looking at Silent on our screen. Of course, he's one of those to watch out for, being in such a good spot in the standings. But Joseph is someone else who's sticking out to me, at least at the moment. He's already got a 2-star God of War, and he's got the 2-star Taboo Witcher. So not a lot of synergy going on, but he's got those 2 early 2-stars out, where most of the rest of everyone else is just still on those 1-stars.
And this is really interesting because I think that Joseph actually started and potentially maybe looking to go for a loss streak. He actually lost a couple rounds early, but then he got these 2 stars in hand. And I think he instantly sort of switched that around. And that's sort of been a common thing we've seen in a lot of these lobbies is 2 players going open fort, the lobby can sustain that. But the second you try to add in a third, somebody is going to muck up that loss streak at some point. It's going to go bad for someone.
Yeah, but then in the next game, maybe you're the only open forter, and then it really works out for you. So these are the little games that happen in auto battlers, the games within the game. And speaking of loss streaks, Gigi no Ri right now is currently boasting a 3 loss streak. I say boasting because it has to do with what we were talking about. He's able to get away with his loss streak here. And this is a player I remember we watched, I believe it was the final game from last week, where he kept having to switch up what he was doing. He kept having to transition, and maybe against his will, like he didn't want to necessarily transition the whole time. And then he found himself down and out of the lobbies. But here we see Gigi no Ri. He's got a loss streak going. He's got something that no one else has, which I know it seems obvious to say, but like that's not a given. and it's the small victories that you need to take advantage of. So he's going for those priests, So we'll see, and we can see also some knights on the bench, which is fun. So we'll see if he can hang on to this loss streak and if he can stick to a strategy in this game, because last week he was having to switch it up a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, the hallmark of these top players is how they're able to adapt, especially when pieces become sparse. If one of these builds is like, ooh, everybody wants to go for this, it's the new hotness. Maybe it's Spirit Assassins, I don't know, what have you. And all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second. If everybody's going for this, there aren't enough pieces. I can't 3-star. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on, because week number 1, Axel Toss, we didn't see a whole lot of 3-stars. We saw like a handful of 3-stars. Last week, I think we saw 4 3-stars by a single player. And then instance, and I actually think it was an assassin build in that specific example, because nobody else was going for it. This prioritization of maybe not necessarily leveling so quickly or leveling so high, and instead getting more pieces of these lower cost units, because of course, depending on what level you are, you increase or decrease your chances respectively to get those pieces. So maybe rolling a little bit earlier, staying at a lower level, trying to get some of those key components leveled up and doing well. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. But let's jump aboard with Betty Yao, because he's on a 5-win streak. What is going right for him? Let's take a look.
Yeah, Betty Yao, he's got one of my favorite pieces. I'm looking at the bench for some reason. Sometimes I like going and looking over at the bench for fun. He has an Umbra on the bench, but looking at his proper board, quite a few 2-stars. He's got the Unicorn out, and you made the point with not seeing too many 3-stars. I wonder if that's like directly related to how many Druids we see pursued, because Druids their ability is basically you just need 2. You just need 2 of those pieces to be able to move up to the next level of stars. So if you go Druid, it's usually likely you'll be able to pick up a 3-star. The only problem would arise when an opponent might be picking up Druid. So that's something I'm keeping an eye out for Betty Yao. Looks like he's also got a Garrus going on. I mentioned that Umbra earlier. He's got the Evil Knight out. So looks like he's about to have some Garrus synergies going on.
Yeah, he actually, right as you started talking about the Unicorn, he sold it and flexed into a Garrus, leveled up early 6 here. So I think that's interesting. He also has 2 2-star Heaven Bombers. Like, in terms of going towards this Goblin build, which again, all the rage week number 1, fell off for a bit of week number 2 until people realized, wait, it's actually still viable. We should still go for this, just because it got, a slight nerf with Kira. We should still probably play around this. And now we're seeing a couple of players still flexing into this, but of course, one of the big downsides of Goblin, traditionally, if you can't quite get your items going on your Venomancer, is it does tend to fall off late. And there are some hard counters looking towards the Spirits, of course, being the big one. That paralysis makes such a big deal. We saw so many rounds, 1 auto attack, 1 paralysis, keeping your carry stunned up a little bit longer made all the difference in the world. And I obviously, we come from different backgrounds. You come from StarCraft and like Rocket League. I come from MOBAs. And one of my favorite expressions in MOBAs, and this is something I've been saying for literally years, is CC wins games. Stuns win games. And I think this is even true for a game like Auto Chess. We often see things paired like the Herald with the Desperate Doctor, getting those casks out on basically just nonstop, making sure you can keep your opponents as stunned as possible. So we'll see how players continue to flex around with that today. I'm just excited, man. Especially these first couple games. We're just going to be learning. This is so much fun.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we're chilling, and these guys have all the pressure on them right now, trying to succeed. Once again, we're watching 2 games here from the same group. These are going to be the last 2 games for the group, for the I suppose the regular season, as we find out who our top 8 are going to be overall, who are going to be our 8 finalists. So it's very important matches for these guys. We get to sit back, relax, watch it all unfold. I like the point you made about Betty Yao having those 7 bombers, but we're looking at GG Nori here at the bottom, which is fine. He's got a 6 loss streak going on. Was able to find that 2-star Lightblade Knight, something that we were hyped about. I think it was last week we finally saw someone pick up a 3-star Lightblade Knight, but the first week we didn't see that much Knight play at all, if I'm remembering correctly. So we'll have to see if that can get working here for GG Nori. The weakness there behind the Lightblade Knight is it can be a little weak, and you need time to really lean into the strength of that Lightblade Knight and to make it a carry, get a bunch of those items on it. So we see the Priests on standby, also trying to add some sustain to this composition. He's got a Hell Knight in there trying to increase some sustain, throwing in a 2-star Frost Knight, and that's just for the 2-star, probably just a little bit stronger of a unit. But the important thing for GG Nori here is keeping that Lightblade alive, finding more Lightblade Knights. He's got an egg in the bank, finding items, and I wonder if he wants to keep losing, because he's on a 7 loss streak right now, which is fine.
Yeah, no, he's doing that right now. He's not committing into the full Glacial, which he actually could do. Instead, he's keeping these 2 Priests in here. just to negate this. So he is going to eventually flex into Glacial Knights. That's what his board is telling me right now. I love this play, especially because he was able to get that early 2-star Light Blade Knight, which I feel, well, maybe I goofed, or maybe he goofed. I don't know if he actually wanted to win there. That might have been, well, in which case he's now got to fully commit. I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw the immediate sell. I mean, obviously he's probably going to keep the force. Yep, there's the immediate sell, and he's going to flex right into. Exactly. That's exactly what I was looking for here. And he's leveling up, and he's committing to the full Glacier. Yep. That was exactly the correct call to losing that loss streak right there. But let's actually jump back on board with Prodigy, the other player who's kept this loss streak going. I feel like every single week Soxotoss, and I also want to give shout outs to those in the community for helping, us. We're learning more about this game every single time we watch. And this has been so cool to see not only the different strategies evolve, but now being able to recognize this specificity of auto chess. It's been really, really cool to appreciate top tier moves these players are making.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Prodigy 2, our viewers should be able to recognize some things going on, because it's a lot of the same pieces that Gigi no Ri was just picking up. So we're already seeing some conflicting builds, meaning like, okay, more or less the same builds, but they're competing against each other and trying to find those pieces between Gigi no Ri and Prodigy, which is also interesting because these are guys who are near the bottom of our leaderboard right now. So similar strategies from our players who are more going for those loss streaks. What's important to look at here is that economy, right? And we can see all our players at the bottom of this leaderboard, their economies are just fine above that 50 gold that you're really looking for. So I think Gigi no Ri, Jared, and Prodigy all should be still in a fine position. But the problem is they're all almost going glacial, like weirdly. So they're gonna have to figure out what builds are gonna make what they're doing a little bit more unique, so they can actually get the pieces that they're going for.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one of the good things to note here is we're looking at the HP totals at round 14. In an ideal world, round 15, if you can open for it and stay above 50 HP, you have done a fantastic job. You have done really well. Jared has done that. Economy's in great shape. Prodigy has almost done that. He's still in track doing pretty darn well. So now I think we're going to start to see potentially this loss streak look to end. Yeah, he's actually putting in all of his pieces. He's up to level 7. But the interesting thing is him and Bediao, you look at economy, you look at levels, they're identical. But the difference is 50 HP. Bediao has been able to do this without losing a single round. And obviously that's the harder route. Prodigy realized, identified early, I'm not getting the pieces I need to go on a crazy win streak. I'm going to open for it. They basically ended up in the same spot, but props to Bediao, these players looking for these win streaks. He's been able to do it for nothing. He's got an entire resource bank untouched, which is awesome to see. But now we'll see if Prodigy is going to be able to fight back from the bottom of this leaderboard.
Yeah, and it's not like Bediao has picked up like any crazy 3 stars or any ridiculous items. He's just kind of been calm, collected. He went up to level 7 a little bit faster than everyone else in the lobby, so just a little bit stronger there. We noticed how quickly he accumulated a couple 2-star Heaven Bombers. So we're like, oh god, is he going to get a 3-star Heaven Bomber by round 10? And the answer is no. He really hasn't done anything with the Heaven Bombers. Just two-star Heaven Bombers hanging out, not really able to find the 3-star there. So it's not like we have anything ridiculously strong here for Bediao. He's just been able to find some 2-stars, and again went to level 7 a little bit earlier. So I wonder if he might fall off a little bit at this point, but I also wonder if he wouldn't mind that much, because maybe he's not high rolling as much as he would like, but he's got a 10 win streak. He's got 100 HP. He's in a really good position in the overall lobby.
He just has a lot of strong individual pieces. Oh, Berserker in play going over there from Benny. You want to take a look at that in a bit. But I love the fact, look at his board. Sorry, look at his bench. He's got a little bit of everything. Maybe a bit of flex into Dragon with his DK. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe we could head towards something playing around with the Storm Shaman. Maybe some mages could potentially come in here. Oh, he's basically left himself completely open to pivot to whatever comes his way. And I love this call. He eventually is going to have to make that decision when he finally starts to see some carousels giving him something useful. But I love the fact that he's kept this win streak alive, but he hasn't really committed himself to anything. I think maybe part of that's due to the fact that he hasn't found the Venomancer yet. I think maybe he'd been seeing these Venomancers, he'd been getting them more. He may have more full committed to this Goblin build, but he's not over committing to it, which I think is smart, especially considering he's going to lose right here.
Yep. Yeah, and we were kind of talking about this where we haven't seen anything too ridiculously strong from Bediao, so kind of makes sense for him to fall off a little bit. Um, Meanwhile,
Look
if
at
we
my
can look at
dang.
Silent, we haven't looked at we haven't looked at Silent yet,
Yeah,
and
let's take a look at that.
he is not only in the
Assassin Druid.
top top three overall. He's number one right now in this group with 60 points. So he's a cool collected guy right now, and if he can just keep winning, he's going to be thrilled. So just looking at what he's doing here, we got a 5-win streak going on, plenty of health. His economy is just fine, 42. And you mentioned it, the assassins. He's been really able to lean into those assassins. I see only one other player really going heavy assassin, and that's Zach, who we also haven't talked about yet, but I'm sure we're going to look at him eventually. So
Yep.
assassins is something we've been seeing, specifically, weirdly enough, the Abyssal Crawler. We're always talking about the Abyssal Crawler in these matches. We've seen some savage 3-star Abyssal Crawlers, and if you look at Silence Abyssal Crawler right now, he is already loading that guy to the teeth with items.
Absolutely. I mean, again, there's the idea. Again, this comes back to the old MOBA terminology. A carry. You've got a piece or a series of pieces if you get into the late game that you really stack all of your items into. Oftentimes, something like a Storm Shaman, we see those really ramped up. Dark Spirits really ramped up as well. But then these more hard-hitting carries, auto-attack carries, things like the Abyssal Crawler that can stack up that attack speed like it's no one's business. And other ones like the Venomancer, who just hit really hard, survive a long time, and are able to continuously keep up that pressure. But oh my goodness, the Assassins do work. But I actually think that potentially the shift into Dragon Mage here from Bediao might be enough to oh no, just man, that Warpwood Sage, the heals coming out from that Leech Seed, so impactful.
Yeah, and that's cool. He doesn't really have any other druids going on. I mean, he's got a couple on the bench, probably just for the buff to help that Warpwood Sage be a 2-star easier, but we can see how the assassins are working well with just the Warpwood Sage. You mentioned carry, another term is tank, right? Warpwood Sage, that is your tank right there. His ability, it regenerates his health, so he's already got 1400 health, and then once his ability pops off, he's able to regen that. If you get some items on that guy, that is some serious sustain, and it seems like that's going really well with the assassins from Silence. So that's why we see that here and there. And also, if we can talk about, there's a lot of fun stuff happening right now in this lobby. First of all, Jared, he might be out of it. 8 loss streak, 19 HP. More on that later. He's only got 9 gold. I wanted to talk about Gigi no Ri though, because remember, he was on the loss streak much earlier, and he was the only player in the lobby really going for Glacial Knights. But now we see him in the top 3 in the lobby. He's also on the verge of trying to get in the top 8. So this is a very important match, very important couple games for Gigi Norm. And I kind of like his business. And look at this. Right when we go to him, a 3-star Lightblade Knight. Thank you very much. Put that in the highlights, baby.
Perfect. Look at that timing. Absolutely flawless. He's got this Glacial Knight going on. There is a Glacial Warrior build also coming out from Benny, which I will talk about in a little bit after this. But I'm a big fan of Knights. I'm a fan of Knights in or its variation in every auto battler. But part of the thing with this build is you've got to get your carry stacked. And even though he's gotten it to level 3, hasn't quite yet been able to really get the items on that Lightblade Knight. So it does end up going down here, but still pretty close.
So that makes you think, okay, what's going on with Prodigy? Prodigy just did pretty well there against what we were presuming a pretty strong Gigi no Ri. But to your point, that Lightblade Knight, it's still in the jog stage. That'll get to the sprint stage once it's really loaded with items. But to comment on Prodigy really quick and why he potentially did so well there against Gigi no Ri, if you'll notice, all his gold is gone. He basically spent everything to get up to level 9 against Gigi no Ri's level 7. Yeah, so Gigi no Ri, I mean, he shouldn't feel too bad about that loss. Prodigy is basically just trying to stay out of the bottom of the lobby right now. So it looks like we are looking at, we switched over to Prodigy here, and he really needs to find something that works. He spent all his money to go up to level 9, and here going up against Joseph, but it looks like Joseph's gonna get the better end of him by a lot. So it's now Prodigy, Joseph, and Jared at the bottom, and actually it's funny, almost everyone lost there in that lobby there except Jared.
And that's actually a really good sign if you're looking at terms of competitive viability. The fact that players, even up towards the top, nobody's safe. Everybody's losing rounds right now, which means that, again, there is a
Everyone's
slight...
spending their money too. Sorry.
Exactly.
Just
Yeah,
real
no.
quick, if you look at the left, like everyone is just spending.
Yeah. No, that's such a great point, Axel, because basically everybody but Norm, who can go to 8 here probably soon, but he's at 7. People are nearing on 10. But again, I think part of this has to do with the fact that he's trying to roll for some of these lower cost units, which again, I don't hate. He's got the HP bar to do that at this point. He has the stability. He did well enough in the early game that he can make that work. But yeah, I just think this is really interesting because again, there's a slight, I don't love this term, but I think it's applicable, is the idea of a bit of a rock, paper, scissors element to this, that certain builds are better against other builds. And I think because we're seeing such a diversity in builds right now, we're seeing, Assassin Druid, we're seeing Spirit Mage, we're seeing Glacial Warrior, we're seeing Glacial Knight. Because we're seeing so many of these different builds, they're gonna have their strengths and weaknesses, and that's just super cool, man. I dig it. Oh, Jared's out. Oh, we lost Jared.
Yep, Jared's gone. Sorry, Jared. He'll be back in the next game. Prodigy is on the ropes. Joseph is on the ropes. Gigi no Ri, I think I still favor him, even though he's on a 3-loss streak here.
Oh,
I don't
that's
really
what
know
he
how
was
to
going for.
explain
Found
it perfectly.
Found the Frost Knight. That's what he was going for. That was the last 1-cost unit he was trying to roll for. He had 2 level 2s and he got the level 3 from it, and now he's going to continue to level up. That was actually pretty big.
Yeah, and I feel like he should be feeling less nervous than he probably is right now, because he's on a 3-loss streak. He just went down to 35 health, yet he has that 3-star Lightblade. So it looks like he's barely going to lose out on another game here, and that is going to be from Benny, who picked himself up a 3-star Abyssal Guard. Thank you very much for that, and also some steel plate mail on that guy. So very strong indeed. But I still think Gigi no Ri should be fine. I mean, he's the only one really going for Knights, and he's got the 3-star Lightblade Knight. So I think he just needs a really juicy neutral round to really amp up that Lightblade Knight for it to really work out for him. So.
And I actually wouldn't hate him flexing into a Siren here. We saw how impactful the Siren was in this last round. That would also get him the Marine bonus, which would stack the additional magic resist with his Knight buff. And that would make him way more tanky. So, and of course, give him that additional layer of CC. So I'd actually really like to see him, if he finds one, flex into that Siren here to go along with that Tsunami Stalker. I think that would be really cool. So grants him that way more additional CC with those 2 units. So I would really look towards that. Part of the problem in that last round is the Defector actually polyed his Lightblade Knight. It was a penguin for half the game, so it's not able to do anything. So really, really good placement there on that Defector to get that off. So little things like that, I think, are kind of making it a bit sketch for him here, but I agree. I think he's in a really solid position.
Yeah, and he just found a Wraith Shard, which he combined into an infused mask for his Lightblade Knight. So that might be... I mean, it's definitely great. It increases 15% lifesteal, increases 50% attack speed, reduces 8 armor of the target. So that's a nice item to pick up, but I still think he's maybe a few rounds away from getting really a critical mass on a Lightblade Knight and really coasting to some wins. So we'll see what challenges end up coming in store for Gigi no Ri. We'll watch him for one more round, I think, here, and just see if this was enough to help him turn the corner. It looks like it was. Much better of a fight there, able to take down Betty Yao. Who else can we look at here? Joseph, Zath, and Prodigy are very close to the bottom. Should we look at Zath?
Yeah, let's look at Zath.
Okay.
He came in, first place in day number 2, dropped a little bit, but still one of our top players. He is going for this assassin build. He's been stacking up this Abyssal Crawler really well. He's got that Warpwood stage at the front.
Yeah,
there we are. And he's also
very similar. Yeah, very similar to what Silent is doing. Almost identical builds between Zath and Silent. Silent at the top of the lobby. Both of them able to find that 3-star Warpwood stage. So we're just seeing the sustain of the Warpwood stage, and then followed by the daggers of the assassins.
Yeah. And what's so great about this build, one of the reasons I love it so much, is that you have the tanky front line. You've got the things to buy time for your assassins to do their work in the back. You've got the Warpwood Sage. You've got the Razor Claw. The big difference here is that Silent has been able to find his find his Razor Claw, get it to level 3. That was the biggest difference there, I think. And again, Zath has stabilized fairly well now, I think, at this point. But really, these two going for the same build, only 2 means there's enough pieces, enough love to go around. But I still think this is going to be crunch time for Zath because he doesn't have a whole lot of HP to play with. Though to be fair, not a lot of people in this lobby do.
Yeah, this has been a very interesting game, especially considering how the economies have been looking. The economies have been everywhere. There have been rich players, there have been poor players, and it's been all across the board. Even right now, we have like 4 desperately poor players, and 2 players are just chilling with like around 30 gold. So it's been really interesting to see the ebbs and flows of where that economy is. A lot more players, it seems like, are willing to spend more, and that might speak towards sacrificing their economy. That might speak towards just the pressure at hand, really trying to find the items you absolutely need to find success.
Yeah, and I want to note there, speaking of success and speaking of items, well-equipped Abyssal Crawler, doing, by far and away the most damage that last round. 1 away from the level 2 Siren as well, so I think Zath's looking in a pretty good spot. Let's jump on board with Benny, who actually lost that last round. He's doing something a little bit different. He's got this Warrior Glacier build. He's one of the few players we've actually seen this flexing into this Berserker, and he is building it out as a carry. He's not actually building with this Venomancer here, even though he doesn't have the Kira. So this is actually fitting kind of an interesting role. He's getting a little bit of a Warlock buff from this, but not activating it to its full potential. This build, honestly, and I'm not trying to throw shade because he's doing pretty well with it. This feels like something I would do. Getting a little bit of everything, trying to make a lot of different stuff work. But I'm not sure he's having the most success of the year. He didn't fully commit. He didn't go 6 Warrior. Yeah, he's got the 4 Glacial, but he's not stacking up the lifesteal bonus from that Warlock. So I don't know. Clearly not having the most success as he does go out here. I think trying to do a little bit too much of everything.
Yeah, it's almost a moment where when you start the game, you start picking up 2 stars, but then they don't really work as well together, but they're still good. And then you're like, oh, I have a 3-star now. But then you're really not able to find the build that you're looking for, but you have a couple 3 stars. So to your point, he had a couple nice pieces, but really wasn't able to find what he was looking for as far as a really strong composition to challenge the rest of this lobby. And this is getting pretty intense right now. Okay, we got Silent and Betty out. Silent is looking really good right now. He is at the top of our overall leaderboard for a reason. 69 health in this lobby, no slowing down. He's on a 5-win streak. Meanwhile, Betty out, 25 health, 5 loss streaks. So maybe Betty out is good to look at. I see we're looking at Prodigy right now. That's fine. Down very low in health. He's just trying to out-survive Zath at this point. And obviously we have.
I think one of the reasons I wanted to look at.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I want to look at Prodigy because I want to just provide an example of how important it is to just get a little lucky. He's seeing a dark spirit here on his screen. He's basically totally ruled out. Level 1 Dark Spirit, level 1 Soul Reaper. He just got up his level 1 Scryer. I think he just got up his Grim Touch to level 2. Like not being able to get your key components, the key core of your roster, even just to the basic power spike of level 2, making a big difference here for them. We'll see if the addition of this the Storm Shaman is going to help out. He's going to have this Shaman Divinity build, and we'll watch him for one more round because this might be his last round.
Yeah, and this is against Gigi no Ri, and look at that. Gigi no Ri found a 3-star Hell Knight, so he's got 3-star Knights working for him.
Oh my goodness.
And we're seeing the strength of that. And this really has to do with what we've been talking about, which is the fact that Gigi no Ri was the only player to go for Knights. How many times has it happened in your game? It never happens to me. I would love it to happen, but it doesn't. But here he is. Here he is with a 3-star Lightblade Knight. I thought he had a 3-star Glacial Knight before. A 3-star Hell Knight.
Yeah. He's got the 3 stars here. Did a ton of work. He was so smart.
Sorry, it was a Frost Knight. Yeah. So really working out with the Knight build from Gigi no Ri. And that's something we were talking about the whole game, how he started out with that lost streak. And then he was able to turn around by finding all those Knights.
And the interesting thing is here, I said, maybe he'll flex into the Siren. He's got the Tsunami Stalker. He'll go more into Marine, and he'll play around that heavier CC build. Instead, he actually opted to do something I haven't really seen a ton, which is go 6 Knights. He committed into 6 Knights. He had the DK, he had the double DK, was able to get that up to level 2, and he was able to flex in that final Knight pickup here with this Evil Knight. And that's huge. I mean, he's looking big right now. Zath just went down in 4th place, so still pretty solid for Zath. Again, he was in a pretty good position coming into this to potentially make it to the top 8. That will do okay for him. I think he wanted at least top 3 at this point, but everybody in the top 3 right now has got to be really happy with this performance, especially given how stacked this lobby is.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Gigi no Ri and Betiao, they are within 1 point of each other, 50 and
Yep.
49. So they are both right on the edge of that top 8 and very close to each other. So this is going to be a good placement for both of them, regardless of what happens here. Will anyone catch Silent? Might be the
Wow.
question of the moment. As we see the strength of the Glacial Knight in full force with that 3-star Lightblade Knight, able to add the Maelstrom onto that guy as well. So yeah, the Glacial Knight's looking really good. Betiao on his last breath. Will Gigi no
Yeah.
Ri be able to catch up to Silent? I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, silence. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I was just looking at the math. I was trying to remember what it was. 65% chance it every 2 seconds to get a shield that reduces magic resist 75% and 30 armor. That 6-stack night buff is dirty. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have the firepower behind that, because most of what you said is all sustain, right? It's all just staying alive longer. But if you're not outputting damage, it's not that helpful. So that might be the key here in a very close fight between Betiao and Gigi no Ri, and Betiao is going to be taken out. Gigi no Ri looking just fine. So now it's Gigi no Ri against Silent, and it's looking at Silent's board once again. As you mentioned, he's got the 3-star Razor Claw in business, 3-star Warpwood Sage,
Yep.
so plenty of sustain there. And then he's got his assassins in the background. So Glacial Knight against this assassin build. What can the Glacial Knight player really do? We have the Abyssal Crawler. 3 is just insanely stacked, so that might be the key.
Yeah.
Can Gigi no Ri lock down that Abyssal Crawler? It might come down to that.
I think it's going to be which carry can stay alive long enough to really do the work. Will it be this Abyssal Crawler? Will it be the Lightblade Knight? The Ghost Blade, pretty nice additional pickup here. So we'll keep an eye on that. Ooh, 1 away off his level 2 Shining Assassin as well. So keep an eye on that. He is loading in the Grim Touch here. So, I mean, this is pretty standard. I actually love the addition, a little bit of Beast Play coming through. Just even a 10% attack with how hard some of these units are hitting. That makes a huge difference. Stacks up a lot. So whose perspective? Because GG, Norm, he's on a 6-win streak. Silent, he's actually lost some here. So I think I'm actually going to watch Silent's perspective here just to see what it looks like as he's trying to do the last-minute shuffle, the last-minute dance, to try and get those tanks up to the front and try and lock down that Lightblade Knight. Can he do it?
There we see the assassins leaping to the back line, and it's all going to be about that Abyssal Crawler. You can look at the DPS counter on the right and just watch that number skyrocket. Gigi no Ri going to have a fairly simple time. Meanwhile, I was keeping an eye on Gigi no Ri's build board, and he was able to do just fine. So both players winning on their respective boards.
Yeah, I think that's something this is interesting to know. And this is how auto chess in the original format, and different from some other auto battlers, they play in individual instances of their boards. So even though they can technically win on both sides, just the way sometimes the attacks work and where the stuns go, because there's an element of randomness in all of this. So they can actually beat each other and still stay alive, which is what you just saw there.
Yeah, and I think your point about the carries is very good. So I'm also keeping an eye on just how much damage is being done by the Abyssal Crawler compared to the Lightblade Knight. I'm looking at Gigi no Ri's board right now. Looks like he's doing just fine. It looks like business as usual. It's got the 3-star Hell Knight in play. And just the Warpwood Sage going up against. And actually, I'm looking at your view as well. I'm watching both because I'm cool like that. Around 4,000 for the Abyssal Crawler as far as damage. Meanwhile, Gigi no Ri was at around like 6,000 to 7,000 on both the Lightblade Knight and the Hell Knight. So if you take a quick look at the Hell Knight from Gigi no Ri, he's been able to put some pretty nice items on both his Lightblade Knight and his Hell Knight. So really splitting up that potential firepower, and it's yielding a lot of good things right now. 8-win streak for Gigi no Ri.
And I want to know the other big thing here is the Defector actually got the polymorph off on a key target. Didn't get it this time around, though. So this Abyssal Crawler has been able to go to town. That might be the difference maker here. But just shielding, protecting this Lightblade Knight, building a wall of bodies around it. And that was the difference maker again. 12k damage. That's it. I talked about this Axel Toss. Who can keep their carry alive longer? And so far, the answer has been GG Norm, GG no rematch, whatever you want to call him. He's been doing so much work stabilizing here, keeping this carry alive.
Yeah, and this is great. I mean, this is a dogfight right now, like through and through. It's 31 health for Silent. Norm has 19 health. They're so close. And Gigi Nori certainly with the comeback here, and you make a great point. The Lightblade Knight, it's Fort Knox over there. Like he has surrounded that Lightblade Knight with just defenses. He wants to keep that Lightblade Knight on the right side of your screen alive as long as possible. Up that damage. There you see the Abyssal Crawler coming in and maybe scaring the Lightblade Knight a little bit. The Abyssal Crawler doing his little chompy chompness. Just so scary. But the Lightblade Knight able to prevail. So what is Silent gonna do here? Well, it's up to Silent right now. Gigi Nori, he's the guy on the hill. He's taking names. What can Silent do to address this Lightblade Knight?
Oh, this is interesting. Gonna be a shift. I don't know if I actually love this decision from Norm. I don't actually know if I love this decision. Because what he was doing was working, and I don't think there was any positional change that Silent could have made to beat that. And now his Lightblade Knight's exposed.
Almost.
Oh, I don't know. It's a neutral round. Lol. Yeah, lol. Helps if I pay attention. Helps if I pay attention to what round it is, Axel Toss. Hey, gosh, I'm getting myself all concerned.
Hey, but look, if he keeps it this way, then it will be curious. But we'll see. Meanwhile, 18k on the Abyssal Crawler. So yeah, it really is about those damage dealers right now. And let's see where that Lightblade Knight is placed.
Look, all I'm just surprised is he's been able to do this without ever finding that third Dragon Knight piece. This Dragon Knight has been a level 1 this entire time. Feels bad, man. He's got the look at all these knights he's finding. Like, this is actually wild. He finally did it. Arr! Okay, move everything back. Oh boy. Oh boy. Got 1 second. Oh no. Okay. Ooh. Oh no. Okay, that's not quite ideal. Oh boy. I don't think that was exactly on purpose, but I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, about the Umbra, right? I wonder, because the Umbra multiplies if you're like, okay, if you're fine with the Umbra being on its own. That was pretty easily done. Yeah, there you go. That's going to be it.
That's it. GG.
That's it.
Oh my goodness. And just like that, it's over. Game number 1. We talked about Glacier Knight last week, and I mentioned before, part of the reason why I don't think it did so well was the fact that players weren't able to get the pieces high enough. We only saw, I think, 1 level 3 Lightblade Knight. It didn't have necessarily the best items. But this time around, pretty much uncontested, a little bit of contested on the Glacier side, but able to position things beautifully. One of the reasons why positioning at this level in particular is so important in auto chess. I am so impressed, especially given the start. You know, he's like, the will I, won't I, go on that lost streak, and maybe some accidents occurred, and things are shifting up now. But Norm played that beautifully. Really good round from him.
Yes, and it's fun that we were cataloging his game from the beginning. We were commenting, okay, he's going on a bit of a lost streak here. Is he going to go to Glacial Knight? He's kind of got some options here, but he was going Glacial Knight through and through, and the only player in the lobby to do that. So really cool display of kind of losing early, but then having a strategy and bringing it back. Also, contrasting that with last week, Gigi Nori, the last game we saw from him was the opposite of that. He was just trying to he was transitioning all the time, kept picking up items, pieces that everyone else was going for. And finally, this time, he was able to make the Glacial Knights work.
He was indeed. But Axos, let's take a look back at that first game of the day with our Xperia highlights. Walk us through that one. It had its ups and downs, but what a great lobby it was. It seemed like pretty much every player had a shot to win it.
Yeah, of course, we start off with Betty Yao, who had a very impressive winning streak. But we were also noticing that he wasn't able to find his 3-star Heaven Bomber, even though he found a couple 2-stars by like round 4, something insane. So he was trying to high roll. It didn't end up working out. He ended up being handed his first loss. Now we're moving on to Jared, who just sometimes it just doesn't work out. That just happens that way. No gold at this time, 19 health, and he just gets cleaned up, and he's out of there. Now this moves us on to Silent. This guy has been so good throughout the duration of the ESL Mobile Open. A lot of winning ways for this guy, and utilizing a very strong Warpwood Sage with an Assassin's Backbone to find a lot of success. But he would not have the last laugh. Silent with a very strong game. But let's see what happens as we saw Benny here eliminated by Zath, 13 HP. You can see how close the bottom of the lobby is. This is the difference between a few points in the overall standing. So I as we can see, Benny eliminated by Zath by a lot, and he was just completely knocked out, and Zath was able to outlast Prodigy as well to be in 4th place. So I know a lot of Zath fans probably watching. And here we have finally a matchup against Betiao and the power of that Light Blade Knight. This was Gigi no Ri finding his stride, finding the items he was looking for, making his Light Blade Knight and his Hell Knight both incredibly powerful. And this is going to be the final battle, I believe, or where Silent would desperately try to hold on, but Gigi no Ri would just have too much. And it wasn't really close here at the end, as you notice. The strength of the Glacial Knight when you're the only one going for it is pretty much on display there.